Up to tossing grenade the windmills. Windmills.
Precyber by Ken Leitner and T.C. Ricks. Chapter 44. Lysen ran out of his office and straight into his little red Tesla. He turned the car on and sped off towards the highway. The powerful quad brushless motors accelerated the car alarmingly fast, and Lysen narrowly avoided hitting a dumpster on the way out. Stupid dumpster. His last car would have squealed the tires and made an exciting, but not particularly fast getaway. The new Tesla had sensors that detected wheel slippage and compensated. Lysen called Ezekiel Norn first. Ezekiel would help. Lysen felt that they had developed a meaningful bond over the years. They were comrade-at-arms, among other things. "Hello? Lysen?" Ezekiel answered. "Yeah, it's me. We got a problem. Yossarian just broke into my office with his gun. He nearly killed me," Ezekiel replied, audibly excited. "Yossarian is dead? That's great news!" "No, Mr. Norn. Yossarian is not dead. I barely escaped with my life. I'm the investigator. I don't do brawls." Ezekiel's tone lowered. "Oh, that's too bad. Well, you better meet me at the farm. You can lay low there for a while." Lysen thought he heard something odd in Ezekiel's voice. He had known the man for years, but Ezekiel still had his secrets. But if Lysen had to guess, he suspected that Norn had a personal grudge against Clark. That was a bit unusual for him. Lysen idly wondered if he could use that to his advantage. Lysen sighed. Ezekiel Norn had already come through. He slowed the car to a more normal speed and headed south on I-75. "Thanks, Mr. Norn. I know you know how to handle this, and as long as I have a network access, I'll keep working on the senator for you." "Sure thing, Lysen. The farm is well equipped. I'll have some clothes sent over for you as well. You just get here as soon as you can. I'll talk to you there. Goodbye." Lysen hung up. He had other clients to notify, but he could arrange things with them a little later. Ezekiel Norn hated to lose an employee, but by now Lysen had knew far too much. It was a simple matter of risk management. Lysen represented more liability than asset. Ezekiel took the elevator to the rooftop, climbed into his helicopter, and flew south of the city to his research farm. He got there a good 30 minutes before Lysen, which gave him plenty of time to make arrangements. He would need to question Lysen first to try and find out how much Lysen had spilled. Ezekiel met Lysen in the driveway as the Tesla pulled up. "One of these days, Mr. Norman, I'm going to get myself a helicopter. Marry an Aerodyne. I hear they're quite popular. How long have you been here?" "Not long," Ezekiel lied. He took a long gaze over the Atlanta skyline. Despite its decay, it was still quite beautiful. Ezekiel always admired beautiful things. He said, "Lysen, before you settle in, let's take a walk so you can tell me what happened." Sure. I could use a walk right now." Lysen got out of the car. His shirt was covered in bloodstains, but Ezekiel did not notice any fresh blood. "Wow, you look like you got the raw end of that fight." "Yes and no. The blood looks worse than it is. I fell on some broken new glass and got some cuts. Did you know that stuff can break? I thought it was supposed to be impervious." "Lysen, everything breaks if you try hard enough. Tell me what Yossarian knows. Mr. Norn, he knows all about me. He knew to come to my office. He knew I passed the order to kill him." "Was there anyone with him?" Ezekiel studied Lysen very carefully, trying to read his every facial expression. "No, sir. He was alone." "And you fled the scene? You left him in your office?" "Yes, sir. I have a cover set up there. All the files in the computer are a dead end." "And you have no secret stash, I take it? No backup plan against Aquanaware?" Ezekiel stopped walking for a moment and looked closely at Lysen. The sudden loss of color on Lysen's face meant trouble down the line. Ezekiel decided Yossarian likely knew everything at this point. He certainly hadn't missed anything so far. It was the only way to be sure. Lysen replied, "No, sir. No backups. You'll be fine. But he definitely knows about me." Okay. Keep walking. We'll get Mike back right after this Columbia thing. We'll try killing this Yossarian again. Mike's never failed twice in a row. Afterwards, you can set back up your office, and things will be just like before." Ezekiel stopped again. They had reached the pig farm, and Ezekiel liked to watch his pigs. Recently, the farm had had a rash of thefts. Jobless losers migrating out of the city would stop by the farm and steal livestock to eat. Usually his staff would find them a few miles away, cooking their ill-gotten gains over a campfire. However, catching them was barely worth the effort. He was still out one pig, and the thieves often cost more in health care than they were worth as prison labor. Besides, the courts awarded so little prison time for pig stealing. No, he had plenty of labor already. A few months back, he decided to stop chasing them and install a new security device. It wasn't legal yet, but it would be soon. Besides, he had to prototype it somewhere. Lysen, stop and look at the serenity of this place. Ezekiel pointed past the noxious pig farming pens to the rolling countryside beyond and to the gracious manor house on the far side of the field. Lysen stopped to take in the view. He kind of waddled a bit in an almost comic fashion. Ezekiel had never noticed how funny Lysen walked before. Curious, the kinds of things you notice just before killing a man. Ezekiel added, "We have stables here as well. You can take a ride if you like. Ask for Buttercup. She's my favorite. She has had a double-width stall because I like to give her extra room." Lysen, though, shifted his gaze to the more immediate area. They were walking between a row of outdoor pens. Each was about 20 yards on a side and about half full with sleeping livestock. Each must have contained 30 or 40 pigs. The wooden fencing around the pens was well kept. Only the double chicken wire reinforcement at the bottom half revealed its functional use. Each post also supported a decorative metal half-sphere on top. In addition, Lysen noticed poles between each pen with articulated cameras on them. Then Lysen looked down at his feet. "Ezekiel, I noticed that you stopped us on a big plastic tarp. Can we keep walking, please?" "Lysen, you're not nervous, are you? I told you I would take care of you, didn't I?" Lysen smiled and said, "It's just like I feel like I'm in an old gangster movie where the fair lieutenant gangster gets iced." They both laughed. "Lysen, we're not gangsters. We do things legally. Maybe we do bad things occasionally, but we do what we have to do, right? Besides, I'm standing on top of the tarp as well. It's just a pig farm thing. Pigs are messy." Okay, sure. Looks like I'm more tired than I thought, and I really should get these cuts looked at. Do you mind if I head back to the house?" Of course. Oh, by the way, you'll need one of these when you get here. Ezekiel held up his ID badge. "The security system here is state-of-the-art. It detects anyone in the perimeter not wearing one. In fact, before you leave, let me demonstrate." Ezekiel pulled out his PCA and pressed a button. The small metallic domes on top of the fence post, on top of each fence post, flashed back in response. "Whoa! Each one of these is a sensor? What else does it do?" asked Lysen. "Wait for it. It takes a second to identify everything when it's first turned on. Look at the pigs. Even they have inventory tags stapled to their ears. The new system accounts for everything living on this farm and eliminates any intruder." Lysen began to sense a problem. He asked, "Eliminates how?" "Well, normally, it just raises an alarm, but for example, Ezekiel reached into his pocket and drew out his gun. He tossed it to Lysen. Lysen caught the gun, thinking whatever happened, a gun might help. If it detects a gun on an intruder, it reacts with deadly force. Ezekiel smiled. Lysen, however, realized his peril in the nick of time, aimed at Ezekiel and pulled the trigger. The next moment, a high-powered laser fired from a nearby camera pole. The laser fired continuously for 5 seconds. It slashed across Lysen during the 5 seconds in a pre-programmed pattern. When it was done, the meat that was Lysen fell onto the plastic tarp in a puddle of blood. Ezekiel's gun had never fired. Lysen had forgotten the safety again. Ezekiel let out a breath he had sucked in the moment Lysen aimed at him. Christ, thought Ezekiel. I never thought he would try to kill me. He picked up the gun and placed it in a plastic bag. Then he reached for a squeegee leaning against the fence, slid open a feeding panel on the pen, and pushed the newly created pig feed through. The pigs ate ravenously and left nothing behind. Call it bloodlust, but disposing of Lysen had told Ezekiel what he needed to do to move Project Hammerfell forward. In life, sometimes as in business, the safest thing to do was go on with an old formula. He checked his phone to make sure it was properly encrypted, and then called Mike. "Hello, Mr. Norn. How can I help you?" "I've been doing some thinking, Mike." He took off his shirt and pants. Ezekiel planned to destroy the clothing. He would leave nothing to chance. "Yes?" "I've decided I want a few things done on Hammerfell. I want a good old-fashioned terrorist attack." Mike was silent on the phone. Ezekiel could tell Mike did not approve. Neither of them harbored any moral sentiments against killing innocents. However, this would attract attention. The country had not had a terrorist attack since the last presidential assassination. Sure, that would make it easy, but it would attract attention. Certain people would not rest until they had someone to blame for it. Since Aqua Noir had a federal contract to provide security, the company might end up taking the lion's share of the blame. No doubt a terrorist attack had huge risks. Ezekiel could be spectacular when he wanted. I want you to arrange the attack on Times Square on May 1st. They both knew what that meant. Everyone knew what that meant. Drama had performed its award ceremony on that day every year for the last 10 years. It was the most watched event in the country, and according to some of the demographics, among the top 20 events in the world. They even occasionally got viewers from India or China to watch it. To his credit, Mike immediately replied, it had not fazed him at all, which pleased Ezekiel. "Right, it'll be tricky, but I'm sure we can do it with the right people. As soon as I get back, no. I want you to use locals. I want no traceability back to us." "You're sure about that? These compartmentalized jobs are always messy." "This isn't compartmentalized. We're not going to be getting Venezuelans to take the fall. We're going to be blaming it on someone else." Mike grunted. "Then why use locals? Most of the guys around here are ideologically insane. They blow each other up at the drop of a hat. Not the kind of people who are reliable on an op." Ezekiel said, "That's the way I want it done. No offense, sir, but if you want it done right, I'll need more than that. I can operate on a need-to-know basis, but because I'm tired of having skeletons in my closet, that's why. I want this done, and I want it done with disposable assets. Recruiting the locals isn't a matter of a target for framing. It's a matter of convenience for you." "Yeah, okay, that makes sense. How long will it take you to get the people together?" "Not long. A few days. A week at most." Ezekiel nodded. He had a bad habit of doing that while on the phone and expected the other person to notice. He said, "Good. Let me know if you need some advanced funds, and I'll see that you get them." He hung up and looked out the office of his window. He had a lot of planning to do.
This has been the Tossing Grenades at Windmills podcast. I'm Thomas Ricks. Music by Melanie Ricks. Voices by Skip Huffman and Josie Bergen-Lawson. Copyright 2012.
Kenneth Leitner
And Red Anvil Amalgamated.
To fight the forces of evil!